12:30 broadcast program. We do this program every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 12:30 Ely time, and we typically have Bears down front for this program. However, we will not have them down today as the main manager is getting some maintenance. So welcome to our broadcast program with no Bears. My name is Spencer. I'm the in-house biologist and assistant director here at the center, and I will be your host for today's 12:30 broadcast program. On days where we know Bears will not be present and coming down, sometimes we like to give you some other things to think about and some different information to digest rather than some of the typical stuff. But basically how this program normally works, if you're here at the center, is we allow the guests to gather at the viewing deck outside in the main windows, and we put enrichment items out for the Bears. But since, again, none of them will be down for this because the main enclosure is being worked on right now, we have some waterfall pump issues that we're trying to solve, and we're pretty sure 2 of them are solved, and so we're going to get those going right after the broadcast. But for now, the Bears are in until that is turned back on. Enrichment is basically just giving them a puzzle to solve for a food reward at its simplest form, or even just putting weird scents out there for the Bears to smell, but things that stimulate them that they wouldn't get here in captivity that they do in a wild setting. We kind of have to implicate, and we kind of have to replicate and make those situations abundant for the Bears here in captivity because they don't get that regular stimulation like they would in the wild. So right now here in Ely, Minnesota, we're fastly transitioning into fall, or so we thought. It's actually rather warm out now, not typical for our fall weather. And then today itself has been quite a weird day with the weather. We just had about 15 minutes of very, very hard rain, and it went away, and now it's back to being sunny again. So we were forecasted for storms today, but again, looks like the weather can't quite make up its mind. But we're happy for the moisture. We never going to complain about moisture really up here. We are in an area that is prone to wildfires, so moisture is good because it keeps the risk of those things very low. Some other things that have been going on lately at the center is we are adding more cameras to various locations around the center. So we have some new ones that will be available later on in the year, but they're going in places where they haven't gone before. So all of the pens, the private enclosures, the first of which you can see off to the right of the viewing deck, and the other 4 are along our behind-the-scenes area, are all going to have cameras of some variety so you can see the Bears in there. We'll have the pod cam as usual, and then we'll also be potentially adding a few more. So stay tuned for those things. We'll announce those things as they go live on the website, and stay tuned on our Facebook for more live video updates and whatnot. But we are adding things slowly as we get prepared for the end of the season. As far as the Bears go, we're starting to see them slow down. We have given some bedding material to some of the Bears in the form of just raked leaves, and some of those piles have disappeared. Some of the piles are still where we left them. So some of the Bears are thinking about their winter dormancy, others not so much. As we all know, or as most of us know, I should say, Tasha tends to den a little later than the other 2 Bears, so we're not really surprised by not seeing any kind of denning behavior by her yet. However, what is surprising is Holly has dug her own den, or almost finished digging her own den. So we think in the last 3 years, how it's worked out for winter is Holly usually steals Tasha's den after she prepares it, which is very smart on Holly's part because she has to do little to no work to prepare that den. She lets Tasha do it and then kicks her out. This year, though, Holly has put in quite a lot of work. She's dug at least a half a dozen different den site locations, varying depth. Some of those only a foot into the ground and a foot wide. Others you could fit a small human being in, but she keeps running into rocks and roots and other things, or sometimes she runs into our perimeter fencing. So we did have to collapse one of Holly's dug dens simply because of that. She got a little too close to the outside edge, and so we were forced to cave it in and fill it because we don't want Holly digging under that fence. And so we are interested to see that Holly has decided to make her own den this year and go with things her own way rather than just steal from Tasha like she has preferred in the last couple of years. So we're fully expecting Holly to have her own den, and it's actually way in the back, out of view of any of the cameras, and we can't put a camera by it because Holly, but for those of you who don't, I will explain, she does not like cameras. And what I mean by that is she is a destroyer of cameras. And cameras, live cameras that are nice quality, so you can see the Bears doing cool things, are not cheap. And so Holly has racked up quite a bill, ruining some nice equipment that was made so we could watch the Bears a little easier from the comfort of our home. And like I said, Holly does a good job of trashing a lot of that equipment. So because of those reasons, we probably won't be putting anything in dens that or cameras, anyways, that are within the enclosure in a place that the bears can get them because Holly specifically, but all the bears, they can be quite destructive. They are just naturally curious. When you put something new in this enclosure, naturally they want to go play with it, check it out, bite on it, chew on it, scratch it, smell it, do all kinds of stuff to it to see what it is. They're testing the new things in their environment all the time. So keeping those things out of the bears is really important, actually, so that they don't ruin them. And that's hard to do without mounting that stuff to the fence. So we'll continue to look at different options for that. But we have more games coming, so again, stay tuned on the website for stuff like that as it gets pretty exciting. Other reminder, I'm just going to do a quick reminder about this. November's coming up. In November, we have Give to the Max Day here in Minnesota. It's a huge fundraiser that goes on statewide for all nonprofits that want to participate. The Bear Center participates in that every year, and it's a very fun time here at the center. We typically broadcast live at the center at the top of every hour for almost 24 hours straight. We start Wednesday evening. We go all through Thursday to midnight, which is the last possible minute to give, midnight on Thursday night, so technically Friday morning. And that is, again, in so stay tuned for updates and stuff on that. We usually have a lot of fun here. It's really fun to tune in and see what we got going on. We have special guest speakers and things like that going on. So lots of fun, lots of cool happenings coming your way with that fundraiser. So I'll encourage you all to take a look online and see when Give to the Max Days happen, and tune into the Bear Center live for some of those live events we'll be hosting during that Give to the Max Day. And since this is a Bear Center program, I would obviously be remiss if I did not talk about bears during the broadcast. So I'm going to hit you with a few common misconceptions that we hear about often here at the center, and I'll touch just a little bit, I'll elaborate a little bit about them. So some common myths, misconceptions we hear about bears. This one's another one, but people often say that, or it's often been said in the past, that bears were closely related to pigs. In fact, a male bear is usually termed a boar, and a female a sow, the same terminology we use for pigs. That was because at one point they thought it was thought they were very closely related. But as it turns out, bears and pigs are no more related to each other than they are to people. So as closely as related as a pig is to a bear, you are, as a human, related to a bear, as closely as a pig as well. So we are no more related to pigs as bears and pigs are related to each other. So again, not super close cousins by any means. Speaking, everything's a distant cousin that's alive because it's all connected. But as far as genetics and evolution are concerned, pigs and bears are not related. We still tend to use the terms boar and sow, though, simply because they were coined a long time ago, and people continue to use them. So that is currently what people use to say a male bear. It's called a boar, and a female is a sow. But again, they're not related to pigs. Another one that we still hear often is that since baby bears are born in January in this area, and that's when bears are said to be hibernating, that female bears wake up in the springtime and are surprised to have 2 to 3 little offspring hanging out with them. Well, that is a myth or a misconception as well. Unfortunately for those female bears, I'm sure they love to sleep through all of that cub care and labor and all that good stuff. But unfortunately for them, they are awake, and they do have to care for the cubs and deal with the process of birthing new offspring. And so they are very good mothers, and also they do it by themselves. The males do not contribute to the cub or offspring care whatsoever. And so the mom does it all by her lonesome, and she does not sleep through that birth. Typically in January, that's when they're born in this area. Mom is obviously up and active for them, and then after they are born, they're screaming, crying all the time, looking for food and warmth and all that good stuff. So she's active and constantly taking, so she does not sleep through that. Another one that another myth is that mama black bears are likely to attack and defensive cubs. This is actually a rather specific trait to a grizzly bear, brown bear. In fact, there's only been a handful of recorded cases ever of a female that were cared for by humans until they were a little older, at least mothers that weren't theirs, and they have had success in those mothers accepting those cubs. So mothers will typically not actually offspring, anyways, that smells like a human. That is incorrect. Another one that we hear often, this one's just more of general, I suppose, but that black bears are stinky. Really, there's not a whole lot of odor that is produced by a black bear. Now, when the animal goes to the bathroom, specifically the number 2, it's not going to smell good. I can almost guarantee you that. But believe it or not, sometimes bears, number 2s, their scat do smell good. Not so much our bears because they get constant varied diet, but think about a black bear in the wild. When it's berry season, the strawberries are in peak, and they're eating almost exclusively strawberries. Well, bears have short digestive tracts, which means a lot of that food goes through somewhat, if not completely, undigested. And actually, when you see a bear that's eating just strawberries, when they go to the bathroom, it kind of looks like someone just took a tub of strawberries and squashed them and left them there in the woods. Because, again, you see whole items in the scat, the smell of it usually takes on whatever the bears have eaten. And so oftentimes, believe it or not, a bear's scat will have a fruity aroma to it because they will focus on eating a specific type of fruit. And again, that scat will take on the properties of that fruit. It will even be reddish and sometimes so many raspberries or red elderberries or mountain ash berries or some of those other really orange and red berries. And it'll take on that color and that smell. Now, where this comes from, that bears are stinky, is most likely due to the fact that in the past, a lot of the bear viewing in this country was done at garbage dumps. In fact, in Minnesota even, they used to put up stadium lights at the dumps so you could visit at night. They'd flip the lights on and you could see the bears through the trash. Now, fast forward to today, and we don't encourage this type of bear viewing, and that stuff has been taken down. But for a while there, the main encounters people were having with bears were at a dump, where bears were digging through trash and eating it. So the stink that most people were smelling was most likely due to the fact that the bears were digging through garbage. They'll take on the smell of whatever they're eating. So if the bears are at the dump, obviously they're going to be stinky. But naturally speaking, black bears that are out eating natural food in a natural environment, they're not going to smell adversely to the human nose to where that offends it, and you can particularly pick out, that's a bear. You're not going to be able to pick up on a specific scent of theirs or the fact that they would be stinky or adversely smelly. Another one we hear is black bears attack if they sense fear. That is also not true. Well, first of all, no animal has the ability to sense your own fear. Now, there could be clues that give off that you're scared or frightened or a prey animal and trigger a response by a predator animal. However, no animal, again, possesses the ability to sense your emotions. You are the only animal that possesses that ability, and you can't even do it to other people. Only you know how you feel. So that is obviously untrue, but if you think about it in a different way, so let's say any of us are hiking down a trail, and we turn a corner on that trail, and 15 feet away down the trail, there's a bear standing in the trail. Almost every single human on this planet would see that bear, and there would be a primal sort of fear that creeps up inside them. Because, again, you're not typically expecting to see that large of an animal on the trail that close to you. And when that happens, it is absolutely normal and natural to have a, oh my goodness type of feeling. And that is very common across the board with humans. And so if that were the case, and that every time you see a bear up close, not from behind a fence like we have here, that you get a little bit scared or a little bit fearful. If bears were to sense that and attack you, well, then every time anyone ever saw a bear, they'd probably be getting attacked. So again, we can kind of rule that one out just based on the fact that, again, it's normal to be fearful of an animal that's much larger to you don't regularly see, especially when walking or just not expecting it. And so that fear coming over people is quite normal. And again, the bears more often than not will skedaddle or run away with ease. In fact, usually upon realizing that you're there, they take off. In fact, a lot of times it's hard to even get your cell phone out fast enough to get pictures of them in the wild. Because they are that skittish. So the fear and the attacking because of it is just simply not true. And the last two I have for you, when bears lose their fear of humans, they are more likely to attack. That is also a myth or a misconception. It is untrue. Bears, in fact, we've tested this many times, bears that are more used to humans or see them regularly are less likely to attack actually. So the exact opposite is true. And there is many scientific studies to support this, including several, or at least one or two by Dr. Lynn Rogers, our founder here at the center, that show that, again, the bears that are more accustomed to human presence actually become less likely to attack a human. And that's because, again, they treat you just like any other part of their natural landscape. That you belong there and you're supposed to be there, and so they mostly ignore you. And that's usually the reason given for that. But so I'm not really sure how the other got started, but that's one of the conventional wisdoms that just gets passed down, and then no one really tested it until Dr. Rogers and many other bear researchers tested it and found that actually the bears that we see regularly are much less likely to attack. The best example of this would be Katmai National Park in Alaska, where people get really close to brown bears all the time. And Katmai hasn't had an attack in over 40 years by a brown bear since they instituted their bear viewing rules that restrict the distance a person can approach a bear. And as long as you respect that buffer distance or a respectful distance of those brown bears, they pay you no mind. those bears see thousands and thousands of people every year. It's one of Alaska's most visited national parks. And again, it's one of the best places in the world to see brown bears fishing for salmon. And those bears see people so often. So if bears that lose their fear of humans were more likely to attack, those bears wouldn't be eating salmon, they'd be eating people. And again, like I mentioned, in over 40 years, they haven't had a single attack. So it's quite rare. Even in Yellowstone National Park, you are significantly more likely to be attacked by a bison, an elk, and several other animals before the likelihood of a black or brown bear is on that list. So again, other animals are much more likely to attack you than the bears are. And again, when the bears in these areas do get used to people on a per encounter basis, they are significantly less likely, because even when that brown bear or black bear, let's say it does attack a human, it's already probably seen 1,000 people that it didn't attack. So again, it just becomes less and less likely every single time it sees a person. All right, last thing I have for you, the last misconception is that black bears love honey. And that is just simply not true. So you're going to have to call Winnie the Pooh and talk to him about that, because I'm pretty sure that's where that rumor started. There are some bears, species-wise, a few that do like honey, specifically the sun bear, the smallest and the rarest of the bear species worldwide. That one actually does like honey. However, in just about the other bear range, for the most part, where we find black bears, such as the American black bear here on the North American continent, we have the Asiatic black bear over in China, Asia, Russia area, that's what would be the eastern part of Asia over there, and a few other species as well. None of those bears regularly look for honey, and it's because none of them evolved alongside honeybees. The honeybees that we farm for honey are kind of made by humans in terms of breeding and genetic manipulation. We have European honeybees here throughout the states where people use to make honey. Well, there are no really black bears still hanging around in that area, and those black bears may have evolved in Europe with European bees and may have sought them out. But here we have bald-faced hornets, paper wasps, and other things that make large nests but no honey. And our black bears regularly raid those things. So our black bears here on this continent evolved to eat insects because of their babies and their value in protein and other nutrients as well. But they didn't really evolve alongside any type of large mass-producing honey insect. So they have no interest in it. Now, make no mistake, a hungry black bear can and will eat anything. That's one of the benefits of being a black bear, is that your digestive system can handle a lot of different things and handle them well. And so a hungry bear can and will eat just about anything. However, honey is not what a bear is looking for. So to say that bears love honey, it's not only false, it's just a little bit misconstrued as well. Bears will eat anything. So if you're just saying that bears will eat honey, you should say bears love everything, because they will eat just about anything. So you could say that, but just to say they specifically like honey or love it is just not true, because that's not even what provokes them to go in the hive. The reason they're going into those hives is specifically for the baby bees. We've seen bears completely reject honey altogether. We've seen bears that have dropped good food items such as nuts into honey and then refuse to eat them afterwards. And we've also seen bears that just absolutely won't touch it no matter what. So we've tested wild bears with this, and again, if they're well fed, they really don't have a reason to eat the honey. What they're looking for when they go in there is protein, and those baby insects or those larvae are packed with it, and that's what they're actually looking for. So bears love larvae, that's fair to say, but bears love honey. There's not a lot of truth in that statement. So while they will eat it, love, I highly doubt it. Alrighty, well that about wraps up our myths and misconceptions section of today's broadcast. And so I'm going to go ahead and start to wrap it up so we can go get those pumps going and get the bears back out into the main enclosure. Thanks to all of you who are here today visiting us in Ely, Minnesota. We appreciate your willingness to pay that admission price and visit with us and learn about some bears. If you didn't want to or weren't willing to pay that price and come in and hang out with us to learn and see the bears, we probably wouldn't be here to show you and teach us. So thank you for being willing to spend that time and money with us today. The staff here and the bears certainly appreciate it. Thank you for those of you tuning in online and keeping us relevant online. We do this program live, so it can be viewed from our website on our live cams. And I know we have people tuning in for that, so thank you so much for tuning in. We appreciate your support from far and away or from the comfort of your home, wherever you happen to be watching today's broadcast. Again, my name is Spencer. I'm the Assistant Director and In-House Biologist here at the Center. Thanks for tuning in to our 12:30 Bear broadcast program. Our next broadcast will be Friday at 12:30, and I hope to see you there. We hope everyone has a wonderful rest of their Wednesday.